Bruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. The Gemara quotes our Mishnah and says, Gizeit Semer is also l'taltal on Shabbos. Shearings of wool is muktzah because it's designated to make thread and to weave with. Says the Gemara, Omar Rove lo shonu ela shelo toman bohen. Aval toman bohen metaltalin oison. The Gemara quotes a statement from Rava that when is it going to be osir to metaltil the gizei semer? That's when you did not use it to insulate your pot with. But if you use it for your insulation, you can go ahead and remove it. It's not muktzah. Ask the Gemara, Eisvei hahum rabbanim bar yume l'yoyme l'rava. One of the rabbanan who just came to the Beis HaMedrash for the first time asked the following question on Rava from our Mishnah. Toimnin begizeit semer ve'ein metaltalin oison. Our Mishnah says you can be toimnin, you can insulate your pot with gizeit semer, but you cannot metaltil the gizeit semer. Keitzad hu oisa asked the Mishnah, what does one do if he insulated his pot with gizeit semer and it's also metaltil? Answers the Mishnah, noitil es hakisui ve'hein noiflois. You take the pot, the cover of the pot that is revealed, let's say the handle, that doesn't have any of the gizeit semer, and you pick it up, causing the gizeit semer to then fall. So you see clearly from the Mishnah that indeed the gizeit semer is muktzah, because you cannot remove the gizeit semer with your hand. You have to then do it in a tilta minatzad fashion, by taking the pot, the cover of the pot, and letting the gizeit semer, which is muktzah, to fall. So here you see clearly, not like Rava. Says the Gemara, Elei itmar, hochi itmar. But rather, if you want to say that there was a statement in the name of Rava, then this is the statement that he made, as follows. Omar Rava, lo shonu ela shelo yichaden lahatmona. Aval yichaden lahatmona mishat metaltalin oison. Rava says, when is it that it's muktzah letaltel gizeit semer? When you do not designate the gizeit semer permanently. But if you did indeed miyached, you designated the gizeit semer permanently, then it would not be muktzah. So therefore, our Mishnah is talking about a situation where you did not designate it permanently, only temporarily. That's why it's muktzah. Says the Gemara, Itmar Nami, we also have a statement like this that we just explained in the name of Rava. Ki osa Ravin, Omar Yaakov, Omar Asi, Ben Shol, Omar Rebbe. Lo shonu ella shelo yichaden lehatmona, ava yichdan lehatmona metaltalin oison. When is it that it's muktzah? When you were not miyached it permanently. But if you're miyached it permanently, then indeed it's going to be mutter letaltil, because you're miyached it for your insulation. A mutter purpose that is something that can be done on Shabbos. Namely that you were insulating the pot before Shabbos. So now, since you insulated before Shabbos, now you can go ahead and take out the insulation on Shabbos, since you used it for your insulation and you had in mind to be used for a permanent basis as your installation, your insulation. Says the Gemara, Ravina Omar. Ravina argues, and he says, Bishel Heftek Shonu. Our Mishnah is talking about a situation where the gizeit semer were put aside in a warehouse to be used for merchandise. And therefore they're muktzah, machmas chisaron kis. They're designated for inventory, for merchandise. And that's why they're muktzah. But if you indeed were miyached it even temporarily, then he would say it is now permissible to metaltil. Therefore he argues on Rava. Tani nami hoch, we have a brayso like the statement that we just made in the name of Ravina. Gizeit semer shel heftek ein metaltal min oison. If you have gizeit semer that were used for merchandise or put aside in the warehouse, then it's going to be also metaltal. V'im hiskinon balabayis lishtamesh bohen metaltal min oison. But if the balabayis was misaking them, he used them even for a temporary basis, that's enough to then use it on Shabbos and move it on Shabbos. They're no longer muktzah. So again, you see that Ravina argues on Rava. Rava says only if you miyached it permanently, and Ravina says even temporarily makes it so that it takes it out of its muktzah status. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbe Barbachana Kamei de Rav. Chorya shel dekel shegodron le'etzim. A person who cuts the branches of the dekel tree, which are hard, and he cuts them off, and the normal assumption is that you're used for eitzim to be used as firewood, which of course is a muktzah. Therefore, one would not be able to then metaltil such chorya shel dekel. Says the following brisa, v'nimlach alehen. And he was nimlach, he changed his mind, leyeshiva, to now use the chorya shel dekel to sit on, tzorich lekasher. So he has to then make a maisa of a keshira, according to the Tanakama, to take it out of its muktzah status. So before Shabbos he has to make a kesher, then on Shabbos he can metaltal them and use them for his purpose of sitting on them. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel oimer ein tzorich lekasher. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel argues and says you do not have to make a maisa of kshira. It's enough to make a machshava before Shabbos that you're going to use these chorya shel dekel to sit on. Tani lo v'hu amar lo halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. He taught this. That means that Rabbi Achanu, who taught this before Rav, he brought this brisa, the machlokes in Tanakama and Rishim Gamliel, Gabe the Chorya shel dekel, and he paskin the halacha like Rishim Gamliel lekula, that it's enough to make a machshava to take it out of its muktzah status. Itmar, the Gemara brings now the following amoroim. Rav Amar kosher. Rav says you have to make a kshira to take it out of his muktzah status. Ushmuel Amar lekula choyshev. It's enough to make a machshava. Rav Asi Omar Yoishev Afal Pishalo Kishev Afal Pishalo Chishev. Rav Asi says, even if you just sat on it before Shabbos, even though you didn't make a kesher and a maisa, even though you didn't make a machshava, it's still sufficient. The very fact that you just sat on it before Shabbos to take it out of its muktzah status, even though you didn't think that you're going to then use it for Shabbos, and even though you didn't make a kshir or maisa, the very fact that you sat on it before Shabbos is megala das that you no longer then are using it only for firewood, that you want to use it also to sit on. Says the Gemara, Bishlam Rav Huda Omar Kitana Kama, Ushmul Nami Omar Huda Omar Kirishim Gamliel. It's very well to say that Rav's Chumrah is like the Tanakama that says you have to make a kshira, and Shmuel's Mekil, because he goes like Rishim Gamliel, that's enough to make a machshava to take out his muktzah status. Ela Rav Asi, the Omar Keman, but Rav Asi who says just sitting on it is sufficient to Erev Shabbos, who does he hold like? That sitting alone is sufficient to take it out of his muktzah status? Who the Omar Ki Hai Tana. The Gemara says he holds like the following Tana. The Tanya, for it says in the Brisa, Yoitzin b'pikurin u'betzipa b'zman shetzovan b'shemen u'v'karchen b'meshicha. Here we're talking about a person has a bruise, and he wants to cover the bruise because he doesn't want that the clothing that he wears is going to then rub against his bruise and disturb his bruise. So he wants to put something on top of the bruise. It's not because if it's a trufa, it's not an issue of refuah on Shabbos. No issue whatsoever. But he wants to put it, and the issue is it now becoming a beged or not, a lavush or not? If he does before Shabbos by putting shemen on it, and he then wraps it with a string, then it's considered to be a lavush, and he can go out on the Rishus Harabim on Shabbos with it. But if he did not put this combed out flax or the combed out wool and put on some shemen on top of it, then indeed it's not considered to be a lavush, and he would not be able to be going out from the Rishus Yochid to the Rishus Harabim on Shabbos. There would be a problem of hoitzah. However, the Brisa continues and adds, "V'im yotza behen sho'achas mi ba'od yoim, afa b'shalot tzava v'lo korcham b'mishicha muter latzeis mohen." But if he went indeed out at one moment before Shabbos, that means that he did put it on his wound before Shabbos, these combings of wool or the combings of flax, and he put it on his wound before Shabbos, and he went out with them before Shabbos, even for just a moment. Then he shows that he no longer wants to then use it for any other person other than as a lavush. So then he's mutter to even go out on Shabbos So too, therefore, we see that this Tana is like the opinion we saw before, like Rabbi Asi, that if a person wants to then go ahead and sit on the Chorya Shel Dekel before Shabbos, that's sufficient to take it out of its muktzah status. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Ashi, Af Anan Nami Tanya, we also taught like this, like the statement of Rav Asi, that you can go ahead and take something out of his muktzah status by just, in this case, sitting on the Chorya Shel Dekel. Hiki she'al hakash, rather she'al gabe hamito. If there is straw on top of a person's bed, now the normal usage of straw is for a muktzah purpose, means that straw is used for fire, for example, to make a fire, and therefore you can't move it on Shabbos because it's muktzah. If you found straw, therefore, on your bed, it says over here, lo yinanei b'yado, you're not allowed to then move it with your hands. Let's say you want to rearrange the straw so that now you want to lay on it. You can't do that on Shabbos because it's muktzah. You could lay on top of it and move it with your back by laying on top of it. Aval, the Brisa continues, if it was food for animal, it's no longer muktzah. Right? It's not muktzah. But if you had, or pillow, or a sheet on top of it on Erev Shabbos, which indicates that you're using it to sleep on for a non-muktzah purpose, menano b'yodo, you can go ahead and even move it on Shabbos to rearrange it so that it's more comfortable for you on Shabbos to lay on. Shma mina, we can derive from this that even some sort of usage before Shabbos takes it out of its muktzah status, just like Rav Asi himself said in regards to the Chorya Shel Dekel. Now the Gemara goes back to the machlokas that we saw before between the Tanna Kama and Shem Gamliel and the Chorya Shel Dekel. That the Tanna Kama said that you have to make a kishira, you have to make a tie, do a maisa before Shabbos to take it out of its muktzah status. Says the Gemara, Man Tana, the Polig Aleh de Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Who is the Tana who argues on Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva. The Gemara identifies this Tana as being Chanina ben Akiva, who says you have to make a kshira, a maisa, to take it out of his muktzah status. The Chiyos Rav Dimi Omar Zi'iri Omar Chanina. Pam achas halach Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva lemakom echad. The one time he said that Chanina ben Akiva went to a certain place, umatza Chorya Shel Dekel shegadroim lashum eitzim. That he found these branches of the dekel tree that were cut for firewood before Shabbos. V'omar lahem letalmidov, and Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva said to his talmidim, his students, "Tzu'u v'chashvu k'dei sheneishiv aleim lo. Go ahead and sit down. Go ahead and think that you're going to use them for Shabbos, so that on Shabbos the next day you can go ahead and sit on them. They're not going to be muktzah." V'lo yadana. Now Ziri goes on and explains, I don't know beis hamishta hava, beis ha'ovel hava. I don't remember, I don't know if this incident that Hananya ben Akiva, when he told his students to think about these Chorya Shel Dekel for the next day, if this was during the beis hamishta or the beis ha'ovel. Now the Gemara makes a diuk. Midika Omar. From the fact that it said, I don't remember if it was during the Beis HaMishta or Beis HaOvel, in a time when he's very busy. Davka Beis HaOvel, Beis HaMishta detridi. Only in those situations did he tell his students to go ahead and make a machshava they're going to use these Chorya Shel Dekel the next day. That's when he was mekil, because he was torrid. Aval hocha, but here, in all other situations, kesher in lo kesher lo. In order to take it out of its muktzah status, for Chorya Shel Dekel, you have to make a kshira, you have to do a maisa. And if you did, then it's not muktzah. And if you didn't, then it still remains muktzah. The Gemara now describes, what about in situation of things that are muktzah, and you want to take it out of its muktzah status? Omer Rav Yehuda machnis adam maloi kuposei ofar. Now, ofar is certainly something that's muktzah machmas gufoy. So he says about Yehuda that you can take a box of ofar and you can pour it into a room where you live, and you can use it for all of your needs. You can use it to cover up spit. You can use it to cover up tsoyan, which was a common usage in their times. And therefore, it's not muktzah on Shabbos. Dorash Mar Zutra Mishmei de Mar Zutra Rabbo V'hu loy keren zav. So long as you put it in the corner, because if you just put it in the middle of the room, so he says then it's going to be bottled to the karka. So you have to put it in the corner of the room, showing that you're designated for a non-muktzah usage to go ahead and cover up the soya or the spit on Shabbos. Says the Gemara now, Omu Rabbonon Kamed Rav Papa Kiman. Who does Rav Yehuda go like when he says that you can pour this ofar before Shabbos and use it on Shabbos for your purposes? That's not muktzah. Rabban Shimon Gamliel, like the Tana Shimon Gamliel, who we saw before, says a machshava is enough to take something out of its muktzah status. The Rabbanon, the Amrei Ba'ina Maisa. For if it was like the Rabbanon of Shimon Gamliel, they say you have to do a Maisa. Like in the case of Chorish Shel Dekel, you have to be kosher. You have to make a Maisa before Shabbos to take out the status of muktzah. Omar Lohu Rapapa. Afidu Taim of Rabban. Rav Papa said to them, you can even say, this is according to the Shita of the Rabbanan, who normally say you need to make a Maisa. Over here, you don't need to make a Maisa to take the ofar and use it for a non-muktzah purpose. Because Ad Kan Lo Ka'amar Rabbanan de Ba'ina Maisa. Elamide de Bar Avida Be Maisa. When do the Rabbanan say you need to make a Maisa, like in the case of Chorish Shel Dekel, by being kosher, the Chorish Shel Dekel? That's when you could do a Maisa. But over here, by the Ofar, there's no Maisa to be done. It's just moved from one place to the next. You take a kupa of Ofar and you pour it into the room. There's no Maisa being done. You're just moving from one place to the next. So even the Rabbanan would agree over here that Machshava would be enough, it would be sufficient to take the Ofar out of its muktzah status. But something that doesn't have a mice to be done, like in this case of the ofar, then not. Then even the Rabbanan would agree. The Gemara says, let us suggest it's a machlokes tanoim of whether indeed a maisa must be done, or even it doesn't have to be done when it's something that's not a bar maisa. As follows: Bekol chafin es hakelim. If a person wants to then rub kalim, you can use everything that you want to rub kalim, chutz mikli kesef begar tikoin, with the exception of silverware with gar tikoin, because that would then cause the silver to then be peeled off, and he'll be over an isur deraisa memachik. Ha, the Gemara makes a diuk, neser v'chol muter. Behold, if you wanted to use neser or chol, or sand, you could go ahead and rub out, even klei kesef. I v'hatanya, we have another brayso that says the opposite. Neser v'chol oser. If you want to rub it out, you want to rub your kesef, your silverware, with either neser or chol, it's oser. So we have a contradiction. One brayso says it's mutter, while the other brayso says it's oser. My lab behaka miflagi. Is it not in the following that they're arguing that we just suggested the mar sava ba'ina maise umar sava loy ba'ina maise? That one brisa that says that it's osir says that you need to do a maise, and here you're not doing a maise with the neser and the chol, and therefore it's muktzah. Whereas the other brisa says that you don't need to make a maise because there's not a maise to be done. The Gemara says, "Lo, the kuli alma loy ba'ina maise." Really, everybody holds that you don't need to do a maisa, and therefore over here by the neser and the chol, you can indeed go ahead and move it. It's not a problem because you're not to do a maisa with it. It's not a bar maisa, so therefore it's mutter. What about the brisa that says on the one hand it's mutter, the other brisa says osir for a different reason? For lakasha, it's not a steer, it's not a contradiction. Ho Rabbi Yehuda, the Omar Davashem Miskavin osir. Ho Rabbi Shimon, the Omar Davashem Miskavin mutter. It's the machos that we've seen many times before in Davashem Miskavin, when a person does a malacha, but not with the intention of doing the malacha, and a malacha comes out, so Rabbi Yehuda says it's osir, and Rabbi Shimon said it's mutter. So over here too, when a person takes the sand or the neser and he rubs against the silverware, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's osir because he might go ahead and remove some of the silver and be over the isur deraisa memachik. Whereas Rabbi Shimon says it's mutter because it would be a davar she'eino miskavin. Ask the Gemara to challenge this. to suggest indeed that this is Rabbi Shimon, the Maya Kimta Lahov Rabbi Shimon, the Rabbi Shimon showed the show Rabbi Shimon. How can you say that this is Rabbi Shimon that's matir? Because the Davar Shem is Kavin is mutter. Ema Sefer, the Seif of the same Brisa says the following. You cannot go ahead and rub your hair with the neser and the chol. Why? Because there's a concern that maybe some hairs will fall out, and it'll be over an iser deraisa of taking hair out of your body, and therefore this can't be Rabbi Shimon, because if you did that, it would be a davar she'ein miskaven. The Rabbi Shimon mashru kishori. But is Rabbi Shimon, he would say it's mutter because davar she'ein miskaven is mutter. So therefore, a talisha between toilesh, the hair from one's body inadvertently, a davar she'ein miskaven would be mutter. This nan, like Rabbi Shimon teaches, nazir chayfeif umefasfeis. A nazir is able to then rub his hair. And we're not concerned that he's rubbing his hair with neser and chol, that maybe a hair will come out, because a nazir is not allowed to remove any of his hair. But we're not concerned about that, because it'll be davar she'ein miskaven if it did come out. But he cannot brush, he cannot comb his hair, because then it's a vadai, it's a pesik ratio, that he'll vadai take out hair. So even Rabbi Shimon agrees in a davar she'ein miskaven that certainly will happen. A pesik ratio is also. So the Gemara says it can't be Rabbi Shimon, the author of this brisa. Elo, Chov Rabbi Yehuda. Rather, they're both Rabbi Yehuda, both brises. We said one brisa says also, and the other brisa is mutter. How can Rabbi Yehuda say it's mutter? Answers the Gemara to explain. V'trei tanoi aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. There are two different opinions according to that of Rabbi Yehuda. Hai tana aliba de Rabbi Yehuda savar gorir, v'hai tana aliba de Rabbi Yehuda savar lo gorir. One opinion of Rabbi Yehuda says that he's going to then rub it out, and the other opinion says that he's not going to rub it out. In other words, when it comes to the silverware, one opinion says that he's going to then rub the silver together with the chol and the neser, and that will rub out the silver, and therefore it'll come out to be a malacha and iser. The other one says it doesn't rub out, and therefore it's not a concern, even according to Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, now the Gemara challenges the other way. How can you establish that this brisa is altered by Rabbi Yehuda? Eimo seifa. The seif of the brisa says the following: to rub your face with sand and with neser, this cleaning agent, is mutter. I asked the Gemara, you're going to remove perhaps some facial hair, and therefore there'll be a davar she'ein miskaven, which is also from Rabbi Yehuda. Answers the Gemara, ibois ema bekatan, v'ibois ema beisha, v'ibois ema besaris. Either we're talking about a child, or we're talking about a woman, or we're talking about a saris. Either case, we're talking about a situation where there is no facial hair, there's no beard to be removed. And therefore, by rubbing the face, even though it might have sand or neser together with the face, it's not going to remove any hair, and therefore will be mutter even according to Rabbi Yehuda.